Hi homebrewers. Hey, if you've been kegging like me for a while, you probably have no idea how much beer is left in any one of your kegs. There have been a number of options available to homebrewers, a scale system, a flow system. None of them seem to persist or be affordable or really usable. So I came up with a system on my own that uses ultrasonic sensors in order to measure the level of kegs in my kegerator. Let me give you a quick tour. So here's my kegerator. I have 5 taps. The 4 on the left are beer. The one on the right is tonic water. So it's pretty crowded in here. They're all the kegs are jammed up next to each other. So a scale system doesn't work. Cannot support an individually isolated, mechanically isolated keg. So scale systems are out. But I have developed this gizmo here that allows me to use ultrasonic sensors with a Raspberry Pi as the main processor to give me very good, what I consider very good data. As an example, here's the main screen. It's showing 5 taps on the top and some other information on the bottom. More on that later. But you can see tap number 1 is an American wheat. I have about 9 pints left, 1.17 gallons. And I have some Vit beer left, and I have some Märzen left, and I have some porter left, and quite a bit of the tonic water. So I'll give you more information on this system right here. So I already told you a little bit about why I developed this system, but you might be wondering why this video. So if there's enough support in the homebrewing community, I'll consider making this technology available. Not sure exactly what that would look like or how much it would cost yet, but I think it would be affordable. So if I do that, I'm going to need some beta testers, just putting that out there. So I'm going to do an overview of the specs and the technology and the user interface, but then I'm going to do a more detailed dive into all the menus and all of their functions. So you're welcome to watch as much as you can stand, and you're welcome to like and comment as much as you wish as well. So first, the specifications. So this system was originally developed with 5 taps in mind to support my kegerator, but as I was doing it, I thought there's only a little bit more coding that will allow it to support up to 10 taps, so that's what I've done. It supports 10 taps. There's a DS18B20 temperature sensor which can be connected to give you the temperature inside the kegerator, but that sensor is optional. The calculated resolution of the system was plus or minus 2 pints, but in reality so far it's been within a pint. So I don't know if I've just gotten lucky on the first few kegs that have kicked, and the sensors have been well calibrated and close to each other, and in their readings or whatnot. But it's been better than I expected. It was less than 1 pint off. So rather than, I knew it was coming. One of the drawbacks is with sonar, you can't measure the first 225 millimeters or so of beer. So that's a couple gallons. And, when a 5-gallon keg is tapped, I really don't care nearly as much about the first 2 gallons that are drawn off as I do the last gallon that's drawn off. So I can really live with a system that just plain old ignores the first couple of gallons of beer. So the Raspberry Pi is the heart of the system. It's a small microcomputer. It's about the size of a deck of cards. It has a pretty good I/O system, that input-output system, that makes it easy to work with sensors, and it's easy to develop usable apps with it. So another cool thing about the Raspberry Pi is that with Raspberry Pi Connect or RPi Connect, you can securely access the Pi anywhere in the world. In fact, this screen that you're seeing is, I'm in my office upstairs, and this is the Pi that's downstairs above the kegerator, and yet I'm accessing it here through the internet with the full graphical user interface. It's a little slower in this environment, but it works, and it's stable. So the Pi is pretty reliable, and I think for all of the features that the Pi has, especially the I/O and the graphical user interface, the low power consumption, I think it's a ideal candidate for this deployment. So the desktop looks and feels quite a lot like a Mac or a Windows machine, but it's a little bit easier to get under the hood of the Raspberry Pi microcomputer. You don't have to get under the hood if you don't want to, but you can. So let me start the app and show you a little bit how it works. Again, this is going to be building from the from high level down into the details. So first I want to just talk a little bit about the upper line here. So we have a status area that shows now we're monitoring sensors. We can move over to the right and we'll see there's a display of the temperature. You'll notice it's in Fahrenheit, but that's adjustable. I can pause monitoring, and I can also access any of the settings. So you may have seen, I should have mentioned this while it was happening, down below that these bars were all red when the app was first launched. So red means the system is out there trying to determine whether or not the sensors are valid, exist, if they're getting good readings. And when the bar turns green, that means that good readings have been obtained and they're showing the proper level. So I'm just going to show you one of these 5 taps. So tap 1 is assigned American wheat. You can see the BJCP number, the standard for that style of beer, the ABV and the IBU, and then there's a little description. All of that information is in a beverage library that you have full and complete access and control over. In fact, I had to enter all of these beers in my system. So the default is a single beer called House Ale, I believe it is, or House Pale Ale. But you have full control over all of these beers. I can change the beer that's assigned to tap 1. I can choose a Dunkelweizen, for example, one of the beers that I have going right now. And here's the information I entered for this Dunkelweizen. So little description and whatnot. I'm going to set it back to American wheat, which is what that keg really has in it. So a little further down, the bar that I've already talked a little bit about. So it's showing the actual volume in green of the keg. So this one's running low. Sonar reading of 427 millimeters of headspace. That's the distance between the sonar and the top of the beer. So that number goes up as the beer gets emptied. The number of gallons is 1.17, number of pints is 9, and actually I see a misconfiguration with this particular tap that is going to be to my benefit. So anyway, these numbers are all calculated based on the keg. So you can choose a different keg for, you can choose the kind of keg that is connected to that tap. So the Pepsi and the Coke 5-gallon Corny kegs are a bit different. The Pepsi is a little taller and thinner, and the Coke is a little shorter and more stout. So they have the same volume, but their depth characteristics are different. So we have to have different settings for them. And then I actually have a generic 3-gallon Corny keg that I created a keg for, but it probably is not going to be very useful because the first few gallons really can't be measured anyway. So I'm not sure how that's actually going to work out. But all of these keg types are fully selectable. So the one issue that I noticed here is in the headspace gas. So this is the gas that's filling the keg. I must have been doing some testing earlier on because this keg was set to air, and I'm not actually pumping air into that American wheat. I'm actually pumping CO2 into it. So I'm going to select CO2, and you'll see that all of the numbers are recalculated when any of the gas settings are changed for any of the taps. So this setting being changed tells the system, hey, you're going to have to recalculate this sensor reading, and while you're at it, just recalculate everything else. While it's doing that, I'll point out that below is the push notifications area and the conditional notifications area. So there are two kinds of notifications. Push can happen hourly, daily, weekly, or monthly, and it's just, here's all of the taps at this time, and here's how much beer is remaining or beverage is remaining in each one of those taps. That's a push notification. There's also conditional notifications, and that would be notifications for a keg that's getting low, and that setting is adjustable. I have it set to about a gallon or so. And there's also a conditional notification for the temperature. If the temperature goes outside of a range, say, I don't know, 35 to 45 degrees C, if it's outside that range, then you'll get a conditional notification saying, hey, you might want to check in your kegerator. It seems to be out of temperature range. So big picture, that's what this thing looks like. I'm going to drill into some more details right now. So the settings menu is where you can access all of the various tools and settings for the system. So beverage library allows us to see what beverages we have in the library and to edit and delete existing ones. Add new beverages. If I add a beverage here, typing the name, optionally the style, optionally the ABV, optionally the IBU, and optionally the description, I can enter all of that information and save it. And if I do so, that new beer will drop into this list, and the list will automatically sort itself alphabetically, which I find more useful than just beer showing up willy-nilly in the list. So that's the beverage library. The notification settings allows me to select the type of notification for push notifications, email, text, or both, and then the frequency of the notifications, hourly, daily, weekly, or monthly. So push notifications are, here's how much beverage is left in each one of the assigned taps. Conditional notifications, again, can be either email, text, or both, and they can happen when active tap volume reaches less than some set number, and also when the temperature is outside of some range. This area allows you to configure the email and the text settings. I have it blank now because you don't want to see all of my private email and text information, I'm sure. So that's the notification settings. Keg settings allow you to specify the empty distance, the headspace distance, and the volume of a keg, which is what allows us to calculate the remaining volume in that keg. The keg title can be changed, or any of these parameters can be changed and saved. System settings allows you to choose between a full mode and a compact mode. The full mode is what you see right now. The compact mode would put less data in a much smaller area, and if you're using a small screen to read it remotely, say a screen on your phone, using the compact setting would allow you to quite easily read and even adjust settings from your phone remotely. This allows you to select the number of taps to display. And the sound velocity settings, because we know that sound travels at different speeds under different environments, that is headspace gas, as well as temperature, you can select whether the sound velocity settings are based on temperature, or you can set them to whatever number you wish. If you think you're smarter than the math that's in this program, then you can change the sound velocity calculation settings. So I prefer the temperature based. My kegerator is usually around 38, maybe 39 degrees or so. And this tells me down here what the actual velocities are for air, CO2, and beer gas at different temperatures. So if I change this, say, to 32, I can see that's the velocity of air, CO2, and N2 at 32 Fahrenheit. Let's go back to 39 on that. And I'll save that. So KegLevel workflow allows me to see what beers I have on rotation, which is beers that I usually have maybe one or two of in my kegerator, beers on deck that I'm thinking about, or beers that are fermenting, beers that are in a keg, lagering or finishing, but are not yet in the kegerator. So I can, in any of these columns or cards, I can select any beer I wish. Say I want to add the Irish Extra Stout to my rotation, then I can simply add it to rotation. This allows me to visually see the beers I have available, beers I'm thinking about, what's fermenting, and then what's finished and lagering quite easily. Anytime I go down for a beer, boom, I can see where I'm headed with my brewery. So that's the KegLevel workflow. And this window, I designed it to operate when 5 or fewer taps are selected, and it can just stay down there and be available for you to see at all times. Temperature log is just a display of the daily, weekly, and monthly high, low, and average numbers. You can see that these numbers are all pretty close because I've been doing some testing recently and I've reset the log a number of times. So when you reset the log, all of those averages begin. Moving on. Reset to defaults allows you to reset all of the settings, including the keg settings, the message settings, the system settings, the entire beverage library, and reset them all to their default values. Be aware that there is a security key that's required to run the program. That gets deleted with the reset as well. So just be aware. I'm going to cancel. I'm not actually going to reset. Then the only other few things that remain, there's a wiring diagram that shows the connections between the GPIO pins on the Pi, and then there's an about screen which tells a little bit about the program, and in the future may have a changelog associated with it. So that's the system. And like I said, if there's enough interest in the community, I may consider making this available. I'm not sure what form that would take. You can reach me by email at KegLevelMonitor, all scrunched together, one word, KegLevelMonitor@gmail.com. I'll have that information in the area below as well. Thanks for watching.